Wednesday, July 2nd. I'm Rim.
I'm Scott.
And this is Geeknights. Tonight, after talking a little bit about Otakon and Satoshi Kon, we talk about Princess Tutu.
Let's do this.
The beauty of doing Geeknights Wednesdays every other week instead of every week crammed in with everything else is that I will generate, no matter what, something to talk about before the next show every time we do a show that is related to anime.
Yeah, I mean, when we're doing it every week, it's hard to watch anime every week or read a comic.
Well, the problem was twofold. One, we were busy with other stuff, so we didn't watch a lot of anime. So it wasn't like every week we'd say, oh, I'm watching this show and blah. We really didn't watch anything, and we had to talk about something else. But at the same time, we just talked about something else last week, and while most of the time my life is amusing on a daily basis, it is not always that I will, in the course of every single week, have an anime, manga, or comic-related anecdote.
Yeah, I mean, video game-related anecdotes happen pretty often, or, at least gaming in general, because, geeks are playing games all the time, and we're using technology 90% of every waking moment of our lives. So it's going to be a technology thing to say.
I've realized that a good half of my gaming happenings are not actually happenings. They're just sudden nostalgia for past gaming happenings.
That's the same thing.
More often, I will have more conversations about how great Tribes 2 was than I will play any current FPS.
Oh, we're bringing back Tribes 2, but it's Wednesday, so.
Yes, good God, did Tut and I talk about Tribes 2 for a while yesterday.
All right, so. All right, so the other thing is that I'm really tired because I got home way later than Rim last night.
Again, why? Because we went to a gaming night that was awesome last night.
It's pretty awesome, even though I didn't finish a single game. I played 2 half games. Anyway, yeah, the other reason that it's good to do the anime nights every other week is because, in a span of a week, I would read a bunch of comics and Rim would watch a bunch of anime, but not too often would we both watch or read the same thing.
So we get to here before the show, and I'll be like, all right, I watched Kaze no Yojimbo, let's review it. And Scott's like, I didn't watch shit. I'm like, fine. He's like, well, I read these 5 comics. Did you read any of them? I'm like, I have them. One of them is in my bag.
With 2 weeks between the shows, now there's actually a good chance that there'll be one thing that we have both watched or read.
I will warn you all, here's what happened. Instead of, I didn't watch any of that, well, I didn't read any of that, I watched all of Princess Tutu. Scott watched 1 DVD. Scott read all of Jonah Hex.
Well, I read all of Jonah Hex a long time ago.
I read 1 volume.
Are we going to do both? Is that what you're saying?
No, I was just pointing out that basically the slider moved a little bit toward the middle.
That's all right. It moved close enough towards the middle to get a show out. That's all we need.
But anyway, because we're doing we didn't get to talk about this right after it happened, but we got to meet I think my favorite director ever.
Nah.
I don't know. Miyazaki's right up there.
Yeah,
they might be equal in my mind. I think Miyazaki is probably more important and possibly better. But
Tezuka directed.
Yes, fine. So there's a holy triad of Miyazaki, Tezuka, and Satoshi Kon.
What about Oshii?
Oshii is really important, but he's the prince.
What about
Gonagai.
No, not Gonagai.
Stop naming people. We got to meet Satoshi Kon, and the one thing I can say about Satoshi Kon,
Matsumoto,
as opposed to many other directors, is that the man has never made a mistake as far as I can tell.
Mistake? I don't know. He said his mangas are pretty bad.
Yeah, but I haven't read them.
I haven't read them either, but he said that they were unsuccessful, and people always ask him, about his manga, like, oh, we want to know about your manga, and he's like, why? They sucked, and no one bought them, and now you want to know about them because my anime is good? And they're like, are you going to go back to manga? He's like, no,
Hell no.
My anime is rocking the house, and my manga sucked. Why would I go back to what I sucked at?
But basically, we went to see at Lincoln Center. Satoshi Kon got a retrospective at Lincoln Center in New York City. So basically,
it was in Lincoln Center, which is actually many buildings, but it wasn't in like the Opera House, the Ballet.
Why would it be in the Opera House or the Ballet House?
Because if you're mad awesome, then you can watch a movie in there. It's just really big. Yeah.
Anyway,
it was in the school next door.
Satoshi Kon at the Walter Reed Theater at Lincoln Center was given a retrospective, and basically over the course of several days, they showed pretty much all of his animated works, including a large chunk of Paranoia Agent. And the one night we went, they were showing Paprika, which, while I was super tired, and I was really only going to see Satoshi Kon, watching Paprika on the big screen again was suddenly worth it the moment it started because
Yeah,
I freaking love that
like
movie.
up until like we actually got there, I was sort of like, because I committed to this way in advance, right? And
Yeah, because Emily was like, hey, Satoshi Kon, and we were both like, we're gonna be there, hot shit.
yeah, and then like as soon like during the whole day, I was like, oh, I have to go to this thing. I'd rather not go to this thing. I'm not feeling it today. I want to go home and go to bed.
See, for me, it was just I'd stayed up late the previous 2 nights, so I was freaking exhausted. But I really, really wanted to meet Satoshi Kon.
I did, but if I felt like even that I would have other chances, and in the future he's not that old. I'd see him again. He's in the U.S. relatively often. Other people have seen him, in other places in the U.S. So
I wasn't quite as cynical as Scott. I was super excited about the event. I was tired, and I wasn't super excited about seeing Paprika again.
Yeah, I wasn't. That's mostly I didn't want to watch the movie again. But anyway, when I actually got in there and watched the movie again, well, I could always watch the opener again because the opener to that movie, good God.
The opening credits to Paprika are some of the good. I can't express
best
to you.
opening credits ever.
Might be. I can't express
In
to
an animated,
you how
full-length motion picture animated whatnot.
they're one of those few rare things where you get that slight chill of like you're watching it and you're experiencing it, but this meta part of your brain can't enjoy it because it's saying, this is so good. Look at how good this is. I can't get over how good it is.
Yeah, pretty much. And really, the one thing that you need to make that opener really work is a powerful sound system. Because I saw that opener way before I ever saw Paprika, but I
On
watched
loop
it
for like a week.
I watched it on the Sony Motion Pictures Classics website in a little tiny box with like little headphones on, and it didn't really do anything for me. But I saw the exact same thing in the theater, and it just blows you away. Anyway,
Also, Paprika is an awesome movie, and seeing it again,
yeah.
it made so much sense, and it was
Like,
so good.
Seeing it the first time, I was like, well, that wasn't bad. It was all right, but I didn't really get a lot of it. But watching it the second time, I don't know if there were different subtitles on it this time or just because I had seen it before, even though I barely remembered most of it from, the first time I saw it. But it made a whole lot of sense the second time. In fact, I sort of felt stupid for not getting it the first time.
Yeah,
because it was
I noticed all
really
these-
straightforward.
There are all these little clues and all these things like, whoa, duh. Oh, duh again.
It's
Oh.
really, really straightforward, and I just didn't get it the first time I watched it. But the second time I watched it, it was just obvious, like, oh.
But
all
also,
right.
again, that movie is just, if you have not seen Paprika, one, make sure you've seen everything else Satoshi Kon did first, and then go see Paprika.
I don't know. You could watch them any order, really.
Yeah, I would watch him in the order they were put out.
That's a good way, but it's not any worse than doing it in any other order.
I get
Tokyo
this
Godfather
feeling.
is a good one to watch first, actually. It's the most accessible.
Yeah, Perfect
least
Blue
weird.
is the most disturbing. Also, I think it's my favorite in the end.
Yeah. Yeah, maybe. I don't know. I really like Tokyo Godfathers. Anyway,
But then
I'm really tired.
the deal was, so we see Paprika, and then Satoshi Kon comes out, and he looks kind of, you've seen pictures of him before, but seeing him in person, he looks and he carries himself pretty much exactly the way you'd expect that kind of person to carry themselves.
It's weird. The thing is, whenever people see artists, right, is they always expect the artist to reflect the art. Like, you ever see those pictures of, like, a person and their dog, and they're, like, the same?
Yep, and
even though they're not.
sometimes it's very much like, oh, yeah, and sometimes it's completely the opposite because there's really no true correlation.
Yep. Satoshi Kon, it's like his movies. You'd think he's like a weird or scary guy, but he's not. He's just a normal dude. What's up?
I don't know, he's not quite a level of Mr. Watchman.
No. You mean
he's-
Alan Moore?
He's just really cool, and he carries himself, and he's really funny, and he's really like the things he said were really interesting and really insightful.
Yeah, he's smart and level-headed and not weird and not crazy, and he does. I don't know. He's generally all right. A lot better than a lot of other anime people who are, kind of weird.
Now, what they do at Lincoln Center when they have this sort of thing is, they showed his work, and then they ask him a few questions, and then they show a clip from, like, Perfect Blue or something. And then they talk about that. Then they show another clip and talk about that. And it was kind of this live, semi-impromptu, semi-planned interview. And then at the end, of course, they take questions from the audience. Now, I'm sure you all know when we talked about Paranoia Agent that I had a pet theory as to what I thought Paranoia Agent was about. And I had all these reasons for it. And I had so much. And I'd always thought, man, if only I could ask Satoshi Kon to find out if I'm full of shit or not. Because, as you all know, it's really easy to read into things like Lord of the Rings and, oh, it's a World War II, blah. But then J.R.R. Tolkien says, no, just a bunch of elves and hobbits.
I mean, you could read anything into anything. There's only so many stories out there. You can match up. We were just talking about matching.
But at the same time, there's definitely sometimes an artist will make a metaphor, and if you ask them, yes, I based it on that. Congratulations, you figured me out. Or, well, I guess you didn't read the autobiography where I said I based it on that.
Yeah, it's like discovering the intent. As somehow, if the author intended it, then somehow it's better than if you just match it up on your own.
Well, it's more interesting, I think. I like to. It's cool when you read a work, then there's a non-explicit kind of parallel, and you see it. And then you find out that is exactly what the artist was intending. It's kind of a, oh, wow, that's cool. But a meeting of minds.
They did good arts because their message actually got through.
Yeah, and it's kind of this indirect meeting of minds. I was going to quote something from The Prince of Nothing, but we've talked about that enough. But there's a very relevant scene related to this sort of thing.
About seeing something or not?
No. No, more about reading what it is to read something or experience an art someone else created.
Yep. Yeah.
But anyway, so my pet theory, to sum it up in a very kind of oversimplified way, was that Paranoia Agent was about Japan's atrocities in World War II. Mm-hmm. My idea was much more complex than that, but that's kind of what you boil it down to. And I tried to ask my question. There's a million people there, and everyone had a million things to ask him, so I didn't get called on. But then, at the end, we go out, and he totally stayed and talked to anyone who wanted to talk to him and signed autographs and pictures, and there was a gallery of other art of his outside, and he was totally cool. But I wanted to ask, and Emily was like, you want me to just ask him? And I was like, yes, good God, yes. So we walk over, and Emily asks him my crazy theory in Japanese, and he considers it, and he looks at us, and he says, no, I hadn't really intended that, but that's a really interesting idea, and it kind of fits. Huh. So I was totally wrong, but he didn't blow me. He didn't completely shoot me down.
Yeah.
But he basically said, no, I didn't intend that at all.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, if you would have said, is Paranoia Agent about, how farts you smell? He'd be like, well, I didn't intend that, but that's a good way of looking at it.
I think he would have said, what are you, crazy? No. No one farts. Where do you get that?
Well, the bat is a metaphor for the smell and how it knocks you out because it's so disgusting.
Yeah, but I feel relieved because that's one of those things where you say, like, oh, if only I could ask the person. And I got to ask the person.
Yeah,
I got an answer.
It's not like, a lot of other things where, let's ask Shakespeare. Oh.
Or fucking Ikuhara. Well, I can't tell you why Toga did what he did in Utena because, you see, I don't know what Toga was thinking. You'd have to ask him. Yeah, fuck you, Ikuhara.
He's a crazy, crazy man, not a smart man like Satoshi Kon. And that's why Satoshi Kon is making the mad monies, and Ikuhara, I assume, must be in a poorhouse somewhere.
I'm pretty sure Ikuhara is doing very well.
He's not doing anything as far as I can tell.
He did at least one thing after Utena. I think he was smart. It just, there's a fine, on one end, there's the smart scale, right? But directly parallel to that is the crazy scale. And if you have smart, 100% smart and 0% crazy, you get Satoshi Kon. 100% smart, 100% crazy, you get Shiro. Maybe Kojima. And there's those fine lines. I'm not going to say where I think Ikuhara is, but he's not 0% smart. He's not 100% smart.
He's negative 100% smart.
I like what Ikuhara did, and I'll leave it at, one thing he did. And I'll leave it at that.
Well, he likes that sort of thing.
God. All right. Last thing, and I'm going to move on from this. If you ever want to find out what Kunihiko Ikuhara is really like, the guy who made Utena with Chiyo Saito, and the guy who made the Utena movie, and nominally with Chiyo Saito, watch the Utena movie.
Don't watch it. Good God, it's bad.
With the commentary from Ikuhara.
Yeah.
Because you will learn the depths of the creepy dude that is Ikuhara. When he gets distracted by the creepy shit going on in the movie he made, it's kind of epically hilarious.
Naked cars. It was totally awesome to meet Satoshi Kon. And the only thing I have to say, I'm not really calling anyone out, but I want to mention this. People ask questions, and there's always when you're in, you go to this sort of thing all the time.
there's always like the kinds of people who ask certain questions. Like there's
Well,
always
there's really only. I mean, you could categorize the questions in many different ways, right? But I categorize questions asked at panels into pretty much 3 categories, right? There's maybe 4. There's the smart question. It is very rare. There is the pretty much question everyone asks, like, what's your inspiration? How do I become just like you? Why are you so awesome?
Yep.
Those are the stupid questions.
there's the I'm not actually asking a question, I'm showing off.
Well, it's sort of like the pretentious question where it's not really a question, or it's not a question that anyone can actually answer.
Now, these questions are usually spotted because they begin with a long expository statement that is not a question and end with a barely relevant question like, well, having read your insert super obscure work done by guy you're asking the question to, blah, blah, blah.
I noticed you had a lot of imagery involving, elephants and as it related to this and how it means this and this and this. Is that imagery relating to you in a this kind of way or in this kind of way? And it's just like,
Now, these are often also noted, especially at an anime convention, by the person in the audience who clearly speaks English, who asks the question in Japanese, thus fucking everything up in terms of filming and translating.
Yeah. Way to
Bonus
go.
points if they don't actually speak Japanese and are reading off of something that is not written in Japanese.
Oh, yeah. So those are and then the final kind of question is sort of like the tasteless question, which is sort of like, oh, why are you asking that? You shouldn't be asking that shit. Like it's something, maybe you're asking something that's taboo or out of place. Like, for
I think
example,
the word is
there was
crass.
that. Well, I mean, for example, there was that guy from Geeknights who had that whole issue that went on, like 2chan or something like that, and he had to resign or something. You don't really ask about that, It's like it doesn't.
Unless you're like in a hard-heading journalist situation.
Right. If you're at a panel at a convention, that's not what you go for, Like if a voice actor was like having a feud with someone else, you don't go asking about that kind of thing. You only ask about what's really relevant.
in the
you
interest-
can ask hard questions about what's relevant. Like at a Bandai Visual panel, you can say, why are your DVDs so expensive? But at a Bandai Entertainment panel, I wouldn't go and ask, did you fire that Bandai Visual guy's ass? Yeah, you don't ask that.
Yes. Now, in the interest of friendship and being nice, which is a change for Geeknights, I'm not going to say who asked this question. But I would like to point
Well,
out...
they know.
Yes, they do. But I just want to say that this was one of the most tasteless questions I have ever seen someone ask someone at a panel. It was basically, so, you know what happened in Akihabara, right? What do you think of that?
Yeah.
Now, this was at a panel about Satoshi Kon and a retrospective of his works. And they basically asked, so yeah, that random murder that happened in the country you happen to be from? Yeah, what do you think of that? Never mind your works or anything. And
Well, I mean, it's slightly related because it's an Akihabara, and the murder was committed by, basically the worst kind of otaku in the world, and he creates works which appeal to that demographic somewhat.
but it was just the question.
But that's like if you asked Will Wright, who makes video games, right, about Columbine right after it happened. Be like, hey, Will Wright, what do you think about Columbine? He's like, why are you asking me about,
Yeah.
I don't think it's really not relevant to the person if.
Now, to his credit, though, to Satoshi Kon's credit,
Yeah, he answered perfectly.
Not only did he take the question in stride, but despite the translator was a little flustered, like, Satoshi Kon actually had a really interesting answer about how in particular, the person who committed this crime, it was almost as though it was a crime committed against victims that, like, the person didn't care who the victims were, and in the end, maybe the perpetrator was kind of created by the media or created by society such that it didn't matter who the person doing the crime was either. It's like, were they even it was this really interesting answer that I think lost a little bit in the translation.
Yeah,
But-
a lot of things. I mean, the translator, she was really, really good, but she was also
Well, the problem
paraphrasing
was
a bit too much.
basically a question would get asked and Satoshi Kon would talk for 5 minutes straight without breathing.
That's the thing. That well, he wouldn't breathe, but he would go, yeah. And I realize, and it's like in the U.S., in English, right? If I sit here on Geeknights and I go, something, 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 right? Then obviously I'm having a bad night like tonight. But in Japan, or at least in the Japanese language, it seems like that everyone does that all the time, and it doesn't make you sound dumb or slow or like you can't think quickly.
Well, different languages do different, they're like,
Yeah, I know, but I just think that's an interesting thing.
It is. But also, Satoshi Kon would talk for a long time without giving the translator a chance to translate any of it.
Well, she had a little notepad.
Yeah, but it worked pretty well. But I mean, Emily was there, and it was obvious from her responses that the translation was being brevined somewhat. That's totally a cromulent word, so shut up. Anyone out there who's about to complain about that.
It was being paraphrased, like I said.
Made more brief. I know.
Paraphrase. I gave you the word.
Oh, I'm well aware.
The cromulent word.
No, that's not that is not a cromulent word. In fact, that is the opposite of cromulent.
Okay.
It was more that I was thinking leavened, and I like the word leavened, so I wanted to take brief.
What you gave Satoshi Kon the yeast? Is that what you're saying? Or him giving him the yeast?
Anyway,
yeah.
So
you might want to get some of that cream from the store if you got the yeast.
So Scott, well, do you get Monostat 7, 3, or 1?
Is that what that does? I don't know. I just know that there's a cream. I don't know which one.
It's in the Rim and Scott got to geek out over Satoshi Kon in person. What's in the news?
So I was just talking a few minutes ago about the Bandai Visuals. Yeah, they went out of business. Big surprise. Big surprise.
It always amazes me how often a company will do something or start, and it's like, I know, along with the majority of the world who knows what they're doing, that it's a bad idea. It's like everyone knows it's a bad idea but them. Right. Don't they know?
So anyway, they got folded back into Bandai Entertainment, which is the Bandai that existed, was putting out Gundam DVDs and Cowboy Bebop DVDs and Escaflowne DVDs and such and such and such, right? So now it's just Bandai Entertainment is the only company now, and they have all of Bandai Visual's stuff. And they put out an announcement, basically, because the Anime Expo is really soon-ish, like this weekend. And they're basically like, all right, here's what we're going to do with the Bandai Visual stuff. They're going to put it under the Oniami's label, which is where it was under already, which is, if you have never seen Wings of Oniami's, you probably should, because I haven't, because I suck. And Bandai Visual's DVD is too expensive, or I'd buy it.
Hey, don't worry. I've only seen it once, and I saw an 8th generation fan sub. It cuts out for about 10 minutes in the middle.
Yeah, but that's that's their highlight movie. So that's that label basically means, awesome quality anime, and that's, Quality.
Was it inferior?
Yes, it was.
Opposite of inferior?
Yes.
Bonus points to anyone who isn't Scott Johnson who knows what that is a reference to. Anyway.
Anyone who's in the front row crew knows that's a reference to.
Yes.
All right, so basically
Amo. Good game.
Amo.
GGG.
All right, so basically the things that they had already announced that were going to be delayed indefinitely, like Engage Planet Kizdum. I just love that name, Kizdum. Shigofumi, Sola, True Tears, whatever. Those are still indefinitely gone, right? Basically, most of the DVDs and whatnot that they were already coming out with are going to keep coming out. And there's only a few things have gone missing, like, the original Gunbuster video and whatnot. The thing is, they haven't really changed the prices on any of these things.
Oh, well.
So what did they really accomplish by closing Bandai Visual besides getting a bunch of people off the payroll? Nothing. Yeah, I mean, let's see. Here we go. Gunbuster 2 version Volume 1 DVD, $40. Freedom Volume 1 HD DVD, and also regular DVD on the same disc, $40. For what, one episode?
That's cheaper than your mom.
Yeah, because my mom's so great, but even so, still too expensive. You haven't fixed it. I mean, here's the thing that really bothers me. Look at some of these things I didn't even know that they were putting out. Jinro, right? We saw Jinro back in the day on DVD, right? It cost us less than $20 for those DVDs. They got a Blu-ray version of Jinro now, $80.
Yes, that is totally worth every single one of those dollars.
Sarcasm detector exploding.
A sarcasm detector? How useful is that? That's useful.
Yeah. All right.
So
as useful as an $80 Jinro Blu-ray.
So Otakon this year is just shaping up every time there's
Wait,
something.
how many weeks and how many? Let's do a little countdown here, all right? So
They're
let's see.
exactly. Ah, crap. There's no
2,
counter on the
3,
Otakon
4,
website.
5, 6. I think there's this weekend, the weekend after that, the weekend after that. So that's this weekend, which is July 4th weekend. 1, 2, 3, 4 weekends, and that 4th weekend is Kineticon, and then the 5th weekend is Otakon, if I am correct.
Now, if you're around, go to Kineticon. We're running 1 million panels and a ton of stuff.
I am
there.
correct.
But anyway, there's a bunch of Otakon news. I'm going to just get through it all because it was announced just recently that Peter S. Beagle, the person responsible for The Last Unicorn, is going to be at Otakon.
He was at Otakon last year,
He's
and
going to be there
actually,
again.
I didn't totally miss him, right? It's like he was there, but like he was in the dealer's room at this table almost the whole time.
Well, this year he's doing a screening of The Last Unicorn, followed by Q&A.
There you go. That's how it's done. Because last year he was in the dealer's room, and I walked by, and I was like, and I was like, oh, the Last Unicorn guy. I thought I heard that he was going to be here, but that was all I got out of it. So now I don't think I'm going to go to that
They
screening.
have also announced that our friend Peter Fernandez, the original voice of Speed Racer, who was totally awesome, is going to be at Otakon.
Oh, man.
No, I don't think we're going to do our anime match game. It's weird. Otakon's the only con we don't run this game show at, but almost half the voice actors at Otakon have been on our match game.
Something, I don't know. Let's look at the list. We could figure it out.
I'll figure it out later. I'll post some sort of who's been on it, who hasn't. But anyway, Peter Fernandez is totally awesome. If whatever panel he does, you should totally go to it.
Yeah, because, you're going to see this little old man hobble in, looking all fragile.
With the booming radio voice of the gods.
Yeah, pretty much.
The man has presence.
I want me some radio voice training.
Peter Fernandez.
How much is radio voice training? I want to get some.
Actually, it's kind of expensive. I was
Damn it.
looking into it.
Damn it.
But Peter Fernandez has some gray shade oratory, let me tell you what.
No, for real.
But one more announcement. Otakon, one thing that can be said about Otakon is that it has grown almost entirely through word of mouth. They don't really advertise. People just know or they don't. And despite the fact that 20 to 25,000 people show up at Otakon every year, I'll go to Kineticon or Katsukon, which is right there. And people have never heard of Otakon. Lots of people, anime fans who live near Baltimore, have never heard of Otakon. Lots of them. So, there's going to be this BCC expansion next year, and Otakon's cap can go up and up and up as they get more streamlined and everything, and Otakon gets better and better and better. But what can Otakon do to get more people? Advertise. What costs a shit ton of money? Advertising. What's the best way to get a bunch of free press? Have a contest.
Well, contests are a good way. I mean, there's plenty of other ways to get some free press out there, but yeah.
Oh, yes, Otakon is doing a lot of that, but
the big problem with Otakon advertising is they don't want to spend any resources on it because that's resources that won't make the convention better, and except for getting more people to show up. And if you advertise, in a good way, too many people might show up, and I don't think they're ready for too many more people to show up. I mean,
not yet. I think
with a real ad campaign, like with ads, like posters or on television, they would get thousands extra, and I think they can only handle a few thousand extra.
A little bird tells me that there may be some Baltimore targeted advertisements. I'm not going to say
that's
where.
Okay.
Yes, I'm not going to say exactly the where because I didn't get the. You can talk about this on the show. It was just in a conversation. But I feel like the strategy here is tap Baltimore this year. And then next year, when there is this expansion on the BCC, go all out further. Because I think the cap can go way up. But, that's all speculation on my part. But the Otakon 2008 Webcomics Challenge, you can read the rules. And the deadline is pretty quick. Basically, any webcomic published between now and July 11th featuring a storyline specifically about Otakon is eligible to win some shit.
All right, what do you win?
I'm not even going to go into that because I want to get past this. I'm real hungry. I'm real tired. And you can read all the details
What
on
if
the
I
Otakon
just
website.
draw stick figures real quick and slap them up on the website? Can that count, possibly?
Well, you'll be eligible.
Oh, all right.
I mean, we've had contests and you might be eligible. Doesn't mean you're going to win.
Oh, is it random or is it best one?
Well, the big rule, all decisions of Otakon staff regarding eligibility as well as prize awards are final, and it looks like they can just decide. There's a whole bunch of rules here. You get all the rights
so they're
to your
just going to
stuff.
pick whichever one they like, pretty much, so it's better be good.
But anyway, the other news that I really want to talk about, and this is another thing a little bird told me. It hasn't been announced yet. This week, Otakon is going to announce the other musical acts.
Oh no, it's
Now, they've already got freaking Jam Project.
Mm-hmm.
So who the hell are they going to announce?
Well, it could be a lesser act because in the past, they've had a big one and then a few, side ones. So.
Yes, but at the same time, all indications are that this Otakon is going a couple of steps above and beyond every other Otakon in terms of programming.
That could be true, but I'm done. I've exhaled as far as, waiting for some sort of like a Yumi or Utana
It's going to be
Hikaru.
Ayumi Hamasaki and Megumi Hashibara and Two Mix and Yoko Kanno and I don't know.
It was
Karata.
Yoko Kanno the year before we got there.
Yes, I could cry. I listen to that MP3 kind of often.
Yeah.
But regardless, this Otakon, just in terms of already what has been announced so far, the raw programming, panels, musical acts that have been announced thus far, guests, I think this is going to be the best Otakon programming-wise of any Otakon ever.
I just hope they keep the dealer's room with the same layout where they can use that extra space under the stairs in that one lobby
Yes.
for the exit of the dealer's room.
Plus, I'm looking forward because the only badge we don't have at Otakon now is staff. We're going to be
That's
Artist
the badge
Alley.
you don't want because then someone can tell you what to do.
Yeah, unless you're at Katsukana Kinetic.
So we're going to have press, regular, Artist Alley, panelist.
Yes.
And we don't have guest either.
We don't have guest or staff.
That's all right.
But we've got guest and staff at Katsucon and Kineticon. So I think all around we've got everything.
All right.
We don't have con chair. I don't know if I'm willing to ever deal with that.
How about no? I don't even have time for this. How am I supposed to have time for that shit?
Things of the day. So my thing of the day is going to be basically Satoshi Kon. The really cool thing is that he brought this camera with him on stage.
It was a Nikon DSLR.
We know because he told us twice.
Well, I could tell just looking at it. It was a Nikon digital SLR. I didn't know if it was like the D. I guess they have like the 80 and the D. I don't forget. There's a bunch of different numbers. Bigger numbers means fancier. And he was like, this is the Nikon, the pride of Japan. And I was like, oh, I was not aware that the Nikon was the pride of Japan.
But one thing he did a bunch of times while he was talking is he would just take a picture of the crowd.
Now,
Take a picture of
usually that's the
crowd.
kind of thing that'd be sort of annoying and weird. But he sort of did it in a way that wasn't weird.
He did it, and then he made a really interesting point with it. And then he kind of used it to kind of pull the thread together. Then at the end, he's like, now, before you all go, and then he took like one final picture. My thing of the day is that picture. Now, we were there with a bunch, like Emily's there and a bunch of people. But the important thing is, Scott has the most demure, like debutante, like he's so enamored with Satoshi Kon, and he wants to ask him out. He's like, "Oh no, Satoshi Senpai."
I don't know what's wrong with it. I was just sort of sitting there sleeping.
No, the picture, the way you look in this picture is so demure and hilarious.
I don't know. I remember at the time I was just sort of like sitting there resting my head on my hands, just sort of tired.
Yes, well, in this picture, you can come look at it when we're done recording. You'll see
I don't
what
seem
mean.
to look good in any picture, really.
It's hard. The thing is, pictures of me from straight on front, I always look kind of weird because I have this gigantic smile all the time. But from the side, I look a lot more normal.
See, the thing is, like if you just look at me, walking around, I'm all right. But if you take a picture of me, you'll see that like one half of my chin is bigger than the other half. And I have like a giant, my mouth is sort of uneven if I open it, and yeah, whatever.
You're so worried. But you're very demure in this picture.
Whatever. All right. So check this out. This is actually, I didn't realize till just now reading the text under the video here, the what do they call it? The subtext or the caption, that this is actually a really old thing. It's just, it didn't get posted to the internet until a few weeks ago. And then it, since we're doing less episodes, it didn't make it till thing of the day until today. Actually, I might have done this thing of the day and screwed up. If I did, tell me, but I don't think I did. Anyway, so there's this performance artist in Japan. It's a lady named Sako Kojima, right? And I guess a long time ago, at least a year ago, she did this performance art in the window of a store where she became a hamster.
Now you might be thinking, wait, what? Like metaphorically? Does she dress up as a hamster?
No, literally, her installation / performance, Why I Became a Hamster, included treats, housing, chew toys, and food, all scaled to her size. She basically spent multiple days living as a hamster, acting as a hamster in, in a store window, and she's. At one half, it's like, wow, that's really cute. And the other half, it's like, wow, she's really crazy.
Remember how I talked about the smart
perfect
and insane scale?
It's the perfect metaphor for Japan.
I don't know what to say other than that it's really, really cute, but at the same time, it is really, really crazy.
But I guess there is some kind of art to it in a way.
It's
up to you whether you like it or not.
It's surprisingly well done. Like, it's very well put together, this thing.
Yeah, she definitely put a lot of thought into this.
So, we weren't going to do like a cop-out or like a special now that we've cut the schedule short, but Scott and I are both kind of going out of town. Scott's going to see his grandma in Florida, and Emily and I are going to the beach in Wildwood with Scott Johnson and Laura. So, as a result...
Why do you always say Laura? It's Laura.
Well, it's not Lara or Lara or Lyra or Lyra.
Laura.
Doesn't
matter.
In
lore, as in battle Laura.
The thing is...
Lara has no U in it. It's a different name.
I'm totally indifferent.
I'm just saying.
Anyway... So, it's not like I'm trying to differentiate...
I'm just trying to kill some time.
...between that other Lara that we knew.
Are you not able to say this? You have a problem?
I have a Michigan accent. What do you want from me?
You think you have a little problem? And Laura.
Here's the thing. In the Midwest, the way we pronounce A is pretty much at all times. The only people who pronounce it worse than that are the people in Scranton, Pennsylvania, a.k.a. Scranton. No offense to anyone in Scranton, but I've never had a good time when I've been there.
I avoid that place quite much.
The thing is, as far as I can tell, it's just an interchange between 81 and 84.
My dad is to go there for work sometimes. Anyway,
so as a result, instead of totally copping out, luckily we kind of went long unintentionally in the first half, so we're not going to review Princess Tutu.
I've only seen one disc.
A full review of it, though in the future at some point we will fully review this show because it's a show that's worth reviewing. But what we're going to do is preview it. Now remember, kind of the way we do this is that a preview is either we haven't seen all the show, though in this case I have seen the entire show, but we're really not going to try to spoil anything. We're mostly going to... A preview is kind of like... If it is worth it for you to watch a show is what we do. This is what the show's about. This is our impressions of it. Yada, yada, yada. If you're this kind of person, you'll probably like it.
Yep.
So Princess Tutu is a show that the way most people who like it would explain it is, yeah, I totally would have never thought to watch a show called Princess Tutu.
Yeah, I mean, you look at it and you're like, okay, it's called Princess Tutu. And it's like, even though I should have learned my lesson from liking Fancy Lala.
Yes. Let's see. Shows that by the name you don't think you'll like. Fancy Lala, Princess Tutu.
Right. But I liked Fancy Lala, at least what I saw. So, but yet Fancy Princess Tutu comes along, and I'm like, there's no way I can like Princess Tutu. But Princess Tutu's all right. Now, I gotta say, all right, if you don't want any spoilers whatsoever, because it's really hard to talk about the show because there's pretty much something that happens in pretty much every episode that, because of my experience watching the first episode and being stupid, it would have been a spoiler for me if you would have said the most basic, obvious thing about the show. So I feel like if you have already decided you're going to give it a go, shouldn't listen to this episode anymore because then you won't have any chance of having this really weird experience I had in the first episode.
Yes. So if you have already decided that you're going to watch Princess Tutu based solely on the fact that we have said it's worth watching, stop right now and go watch the first episode of Princess Tutu or buy it or rent it.
As soon as you watch the first episode, then you can come back and listen to the rest of this without any worries.
Because we're not really going to spoil anything, but you'll get a better experience if you don't know anything going into it.
Yeah.
I'd say don't even look at anything online.
Yep.
Avoid even looking at the box. Just put the DVD in and go.
And now let me explain to you why this is. You see, Princess Tutu, right? If you didn't realize it, because it's one of those things where it's like you know it or you feel like you should know it or it's obvious, but you don't know it. It's a magical girl show. And a magical girl show has magical girls transforming, right? Which is sort of obvious. Now, the thing is, I was watching the first episode, and you have this girl transforming from a duck to a girl, right? So there was the transformation. Another transformation, from average girl to Princess Tutu was not expected. So in the first episode, when it happened, to be honest, it blew me away. I was like, OMGs! So I feel like if someone had told me, Scott, remember, it's a magical girl show, then that wouldn't have blown me away. So I feel like you can sort of spoil that cool experience of being blown away in the first episode by not fully grokking the magical girlness.
But there's a few, not really misconceptions, but a lot of people I found, and I was included until I actually sat down and watched this show, don't know anything about it other than that a lot of older or more hardcore anime fans will mention it. And it's usually mentioned in conversations that also involve like Utena and Rose of Versailles and those sorts of shows. So a lot of people who just hear the name think like they expect a certain aesthetic and a certain kind of show. And I think a lot of people who actually sit down and watch the show are very, very surprised to see a recent, modern, crisply animated, not at all stylistically like those shows show.
No, not really. It's pretty much a standardly, modernly animated show.
What I'm saying is a lot of the people I talk to who clearly just have heard, like, oh, Princess Tutu, I've heard that's good. They think, if you ask them, like, what do you think that is? They think it's this old show. I've run into a lot of people who think this because it's not a show that's out there. A lot of people don't know about it. So not many people have actually seen what the show looks like, which is kind of surprising, except for the fact that there's so much anime out there. It's real easy to have not seen a show.
Because it is easy to get confused because there are a lot of older anime that are, could be confused, like Princess Knight. So...
Plus, I mean, people do talk about it, and they tend to bring up shows like Utena in the same breath.
Yep.
But Princess Tutu is the story of a young duck
Quack.
named Ahiru.
Which Ahiru is the Japanese word for duck.
Yes.
So it's a duck named Duck.
Now, this is not a metaphor. She's literally a duck.
Literally. We're talking like it's in the water, and it goes quack, quack, quack.
I really like how the beginning of the show opens, because it's pretty much, it shows a prince dancing ballet, Swan Lake sort of thing.
Yeah, and Tchaikovsky, he's my man. I love his action, right? And he's got the mad ballets going on. But really, they put him on a little too much. It feels like there isn't enough balance between...
It's a show called Princess Tutu about ballet. Every episode is a metaphor for a different ballet.
I meant the Tchaikovsky is in there a little too much. You got to put in some other ballets in there a little bit more. Balance it out.
I think part of it is that Swan Lake, considering that the main character is a duck girl...
A duck is not a swan.
Yes, but consider where the show might be going.
The duck's going to become a swan?
I'm not going to say anything at all. This show I'm not going to spoil. But basically, it starts out and it's really cool, and there's this prince and he's dancing. You hear this voiceover of a girl like, I've always loved the prince, that sort of thing. And then, but I'm a duck, and it's a duck watching this prince dancing, and the duck loves the prince, but the duck's a duck.
Literally, quack. And then I'm in the water. I have webbed feet and little winglings.
But then the duck wakes up as a girl, and there's some flashbacks, and it basically, for the first several minutes of this show, the girl wakes up, and she's not sure, and neither are you, if she was always a girl or always a duck. Is it a duck who dreamed it was a girl who dreamed it was a duck? Is it a girl who and it's pretty explicitly, you figure it out after a while, and they kind of explicitly say, no, it's a duck, turns into a girl. But it's really left open, and that kind of matters later.
Yeah.
But Laura, who lent us the 2 sets of this show, because she really likes it, and I really like it too, the way she described it, and this is probably the best way to describe the show to someone, is that it is a show that as long as you are comfortable with and expecting the fact that the characters will fight with each other and express their feelings almost entirely through ballet, and independent of that, the show is about a bunch of people at a ballet school.
That is one thing that it has in common with a lot of other anime like Utena, is that it sort of has the inexplicable school, right? It's like there are a bunch of people in a school somewhere There's no other world. They don't have parents. They don't have siblings. It's just a bunch of kids in a school inexplicably, and there's maybe a teacher or something, but that's it. And it's like, huh?
But at the same time, this show, unlike other shows, addresses that, and there's a point at which
does it really? Because it doesn't address it in the first disc.
No, but as the show goes on, it gets to the point where what's outside the gates? Fuck if I know.
Well, I mean, they walk around town sometimes.
Yes.
They interact with the town a little bit, but not much. It's pretty much just a place. It's like, well, if they leave the school, they're in the town.
And Utena's like that, where you see a few times someone's outside of the school.
Yeah, like they go out. They Saionji gets an apartment in town at one point, right?
Yep, or Wakaba has an apartment in town, and she.
Some people go. There's a couple scenes where someone goes to town shopping to buy something.
Yep, or there's a scene where some people go to an amusement park together.
Yeah. To go get some curry.
Yeah. Wow. We just totally obliquely reference like everything that's good about that show or bad about that show or all anyway.
Yeah, but the town, it's not really there. It's sort of like
the show kind of like, all right, we're in this walled garden, let's just go. But then, people from the outside, like a ballet troupe will come at one point. And the people who come, things kind of happen to them as a result of them being there. And it's from that point forward, the fact that the school is inexplicable suddenly becomes very relevant.
Yeah, I've always wanted a show sort of take that idea, because so many other shows take that inexplicable school mechanic for granted. They just have the inexplicable school there the whole time so that their story can take place within it. Yet, if a show actually took the inexplicable school and then said, why is this school so here and such and weird, then that would be totally cool. So if this show does that, that sounds good to me.
Yes, the other thing that's pretty cool is that the show takes nothing for granted, and as you go on, everything is explained or relevant, and nothing's really taken for granted, and it's pretty interesting.
The first episode is a little bit, weird, but the second episode pretty much smooths things right over and puts you into the Monster of the Week groove.
Yep.
And then each episode sort of reveals a little bit more. But the first episode is weird, but the second episode, everything is straightened out. And you're like, oh, I get it. All right. It's not like Utena where it's all weird.
Now, the cool thing
it's pretty obvious.
is that the show will be like plot, Monster of the Day-ish for a while, and then back to just straight out plot until the end. And it's it's two separate shows basically. The first half of the show, the first 12 or 13 or whatever episodes, goes, stops, the show ends. Plot is resolved. Next episode, we continue, and the show happens again.
The thing is, in episode 2 or 3, they tell you what's gonna happen. They're like, this is a they pretty much say in plain Japanese, this is a tragedy. Hello. And she says, oh, it's a tragedy. Okay. That's what the character says. So it's like, huh, is it actually going to be? I don't know, but they just said it was going to be.
Yep, but one other thing I want to say, it's not really a spoiler, but this show breaks another trope of magical girl shows where pretty much right away, people are like, well, you're Princess Tutu, duh.
It's not like Sailor Moon or Superman.
It's like, oh, you fucking disappear. Princess Tutu, who looks a lot like you, appears immediately.
Yeah, it's like in episode 4 or 5, right? There's a scene where, the duck in human form. And that's one thing I like about the show is that most magical girls, like Sailor Moon, right? She's either Sailor Moon or what's her name? Which is not Sailor Moon.
Well, depending on if you watch the dub, it's Serena or Usagi. Her full name is Tsukino Usagi.
Whatever, the girl when she's not Sailor Moon. That's it. Here we've got Duck, the animal, quack, quack, turns into girl named Duck, who's just a girl.
Whose friends are complete jerks to her. Right? I love that.
And then she transforms into Princess Tutu, who's fucking awesome, right? So it's kind of weird. There's a girl who's the cool girl, Rue, all right? And
Rue is my favorite character.
I think so, because
far.
all the other characters are annoying or evil or stupid in some way.
She's cool,
except
she's
for
smart.
her.
Cool and smart.
She's cool and smart and not stupid or annoying. But so Rue's hanging with Duck, right, in girl form. And they're walking to go, find the Monster of the Week, basically. And when the Monster of the Week shows up, Duck disappears and Princess Tutu shows up. And then after they deal with the Monster of the Week, Rue is like, you disappeared. And Duck's like,
Oh,
and Duck is very annoying.
That was actually a pretty apt expression of how she laughs.
Yeah. Yeah, Duck, that's the thing. Even the main character, Duck, is annoying, except, actually, it's weird. When she's in the form of the animal, the duck, she's all right. When she's in Princess Tutu form, kicks all ass. But when she's in, most of the time, she's in normal girl
But
named
even then,
Duck form.
when she's by herself, like it's kind of like with Nana. When she's by herself, thinking in her head, she's cool, collected, and smart about everything, or at least smart enough, and it's like kind of insightful and good. And okay, she's a character. When she's talking to other people,
it's like, just shut up, you're annoying.
I just picture, shut up, shut up, shut up, shut up,
It's
shut
like
up, shut
every
up, shut
character.
up, shut up, shutting up.
The only characters that I don't want to just shut up, right, are the weird Dusseldorfy guy.
Oh, Drosselmeyer?
Drosselmeyer.
Okay, I gotta say something. The eye catch in the second season that you haven't
It's
seen yet,
different.
not only is it different, but it goes too far. It's awesome. It's an eye catch will it'll move in
Well,
one
because
way.
the eye catch in the first season is him spinning around and then taking like a little bow.
Yes, but notice how it's like there's the first action and then like the second action that ends it. It's like action that ends it. And a lot of eye catches are like that.
Yep.
The second season eye catch, it's like it has too many actions. And then when you think, all right, that was too many actions, but now it's done, there's one more action.
Does he just moon you?
Close. Basically, it's like this cabinet spins around and then the door opens and you see him in there. And you're like, okay, that was the action. But then he steps out and you're like, oh, okay. And then he raises his glass and smiles this fucked up smile. And it's totally out of pace and rhythm with the rest of it. So it's like eye catch, whoa. and that's the eye catch for the rest of the show.
It's pretty scary. But yeah, and then there's the music box lady. She's all right.
Yeah, Adele-san.
She's basically, it really feels to me like in Utena, you have the Shadow Girls. She's like the Shadow Girl. She shows up right before the Monster of the Week shows up, says something cryptic, you listen, and basically that's a metaphor for what the episode is about, and then you fight the Monster of the Week. Well,
Yep.
You dance with the Monster of the Week.
Yes, once again, people fight through ballet, and you might think, nah, no, that is, they literally, it is literal. They are fighting through ballet.
Now, this is actually one thing that bothers me with the show, right? The show is about ballet. Ballet is a huge part of the show, right? I want to see more fully animated dancing. There's a lot of the dancing is still frame of people in a pose, pan across. Still frame of them in another pose,
You actually
zoom
get
in.
a lot more of that as the show goes on.
I want to see, I really feel like when I'm watching them dance, when Princess Tutu shows up, I want to see, fully animated entire dances and not just like animate one move, cut, animate a different move, cut, animate a different move. I want to see like the whole ballet going on, but I didn't get to see much of that in the first disc, or at least not as much as I wanted to. And it's a little frustrating watching the dancing scenes that didn't have enough animation going on.
Yeah, but you get a lot more of the animation later. And one thing later on,
it really was like an Utena fight as opposed to, say, a Gundam. I mean, at least in a Gundam fight, they might use stock animation, but at least it's moving all the time.
But later on, one really cool thing is there's a point at which there are ballet fights, and the Raven's kind of henchmen, or the things that fight on the Raven's behalf.
I know the Raven's coming in.
Yes, but the Raven's things are basically just people wearing Raven costumes, carrying swords, doing ballet.
Do they fully animate the dancing?
To a point.
See.
It's pretty cool.
Yeah, it could be cool. I'm not saying it's not cool, but I wanted to see like the whole dance animated. Like there were some parts where in the show where they're like, you knew the dances are wicked awesome, and they seem to really do a good job of getting across how well the people are dancing.
Yes, you really start to respect Fakir and Rue just by seeing them dance in the real world of the show.
But I want to see, more full animation. I guess it would have been too expensive and taken too much. I mean, animating people doing ballet like an entire dance, not easy.
Yeah.
So, but at the same time, it's sort of like, well, you sort of needed it, kind of. Anyway.
But I guess we'll kind of wrap this up because I want to get ready to go to the beach, and I'm tired and hungry and such. But we've said all good. The only bad thing really about the show, and it's not really bad, it's just that the show is great a great show, bar none, for younger kids. This show is so perfect for a younger kid.
Oh yeah, totally.
But and to qualify that, I also really like the show. But if you're looking for, I guess, the Utena depth, it's not there.
It's not. Yeah, this isn't like the highest brow. This is like if you're a little kid watching this, or maybe like a middle school kid, and you watch this, then it's like high brow for middle school kids. It's like, oh, super awesome for them, right? Because it's it's above their level a little bit, and they can feel smart, but also watch a cool show. But for people in college or older, or normal people, adults watching this, it's sort of like, well, it's a little bit straightforward and obvious, and yeah.
Now, a lot of things you'll think are straightforward, but then as you watch the show, you'll realize you were totally off base. But at the same time, a lot of the metaphors and a lot of the kind of messages and a lot of the morals and a lot of that sort of thing are very transparent. And if they're not, they're usually explained fairly explicitly at some point, just in case you didn't get it.
Yeah, pretty much everything's explained explicitly, and unless you're, spoilering, you're not. At least I don't think you're gonna find out any twists and turns. And when they do happen, they're gonna be explained explicitly.
Yes, but don't let that discourage you. The show is worth watching. I did enjoy watching the entire show. And
I enjoyed watching the first disc, especially that first episode, because I didn't realize that, she was going to transform into Princess Tutu, because I was stupid, and that's sort of an obvious thing. So when she transformed into Princess Tutu the first time, it was totally awesome. And it's the first time, a transformation in anime, I think, had that full effect going on.
And I'll say this, if you're worried that the show doesn't go anywhere, the show goes real dark. Don't worry. The show does not go to good places.
No.
And bad things happen. But the other thing is, I would recommend this show to anyone who wants to see something different, because this show is very different in a lot of ways from a lot of the other shows you're going to be seeing nowadays. Mm-hmm. It kind of stands out. And also, if you're looking for a magical girl show that isn't Sailor Moon, this and Fancy Lala are pretty much where you want to be.
Yeah, Fancy Lala, that's another magical girl show, which it had a similar feel of, this is a show for kids, it's not really deep, but there's enough going on here, and it's intelligent enough to be worth watching. And it was basically, there's magical girls that transform, but there's this dinosaur plot that is really cool. And it's like, I never watched enough Fancy Lala to see what the deal was, but I've always wanted to know what the deal was.
I'd pretty much say that I think Princess Tutu is a better show than Fancy Lala. So if you're going to choose between the two, I would watch Princess Tutu.
How much Fancy Lala have you seen?
I saw the first 8 episodes of that, and I saw all of Princess Tutu.
See, I've only seen 4 episodes of Fancy Lala.
I want to see more of Fancy Lala. I'll watch it at some point.
Yeah.
But I think we're done. Don't try to get a hold of us. Scott's going to be out of town, and I'll be at the beach. We'll see you on Tuesday, where we're going to talk about Tribes 2.
Oh, yeah.
I could talk for 2 hours about Tribes 2 right now. I think I'll end on this. Ending on a non-anime. Tycho from Penny Arcade said it best.
And it's in the most recent book.
Yes.
The Case of the Mummy's Gold.
He pretty much said that Tribes 2 accounts for a full 15% of his gaming memories.
I agree.
This has been Geeknights with Rim and Scott. Special thanks to DJ Pretzel for the opening music.
Be sure to visit our website at www.frontrowcrew.com, where you'll find show notes, links, our awesome forum, a link to our Frapper map, and links to all the RSS feeds.
We say feeds plural because Geeknights airs 4 nights a week, covering 4 different brands of geekery. Mondays are science and technology. Tuesdays, we have video games, board games, and RPGs. Wednesdays are anime, manga, comic nights. And Thursdays are the catch-alls for various rants and tomfoolery.
You can send us feedback by email to geeknights@frontrowcrew.com. Or you can send audio feedback via Audio. Just click the link that says Send Me an Audio on the right side of our website.
If you like what you hear, you can catch the last 100 episodes in iTunes or in your favorite podcatcher. For the complete archives, visit the website, which has everything.
Geeknights is distributed under a Creative Commons Attribution Non-Commercial Share-alike 2.5 license. This means you can do whatever you want with it, as long as you give us credit, don't make money, and share it in kind. Geeknights is recorded live with no studio and no audience. But unlike those other late shows, it's actually recorded at night.